Good evening, brothers and sisters. How are you doing? This beautiful spring evening out in the fresh air. My name's Michelle, and I'm going to be reading from 101 Proofs for God. Look at these beautiful pictures. This book was written by Jim Stevens. Just this wonderful family man. And yeah, these are proofs that I feel were really inspired from God to him, and then he also put in so much effort and inspiration and study in order to put together this incredible book. 101 Proofs for the Existence of God. Okay. We're going to be reading chapter number 32, Irreducible Complexity. The concept of irreducible complexity was put forth by Dr. Michael Behe, a biochemist, in his book Darwin's Black Box, The Biochemical Challenge to Evolution. The concept is a strong argument against Darwinian evolution and in favor of an invisible, intelligent designer. Remember, Darwin's evolution was all about lots of small, incremental changes over time and many generations. Darwin even said the following: if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. But I can find out no such case. Charles Darwin. Years ago, before modern equipment, like the electron microscope, scientists believed that a single cell was basically just a blob of protoplasm, not complicated at all. This is the black box that Behe refers to, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. They did not know what was going on inside. Nowadays, we know for a fact that the tiniest of living bacteria cells is very, very, very complicated. Although the tiniest bacterial cells are incredibly small, weighing less than 10 to the power of 12 grams, each is in effect a veritable micro-miniaturized factory containing thousands of exquisitely designed pieces of intricate molecular machinery made up altogether of 100,000 million atoms, far more complicated than any machine built by man, and absolutely without parallel in the non-living world. If a system is irreducibly complex, this simply means that you cannot take away any single piece at all, because if you do, it won't work. Behe uses the example of the mousetrap to try to illustrate his point. The mousetrap has only 5 parts, but if you took away any one of them, it would not work. Please get the book. The diagrams are incredible. My laptop doesn't do them justice. If any one of the components of the mousetrap, the base, the hammer, the spring, the catch, or the holding bar is removed, then the trap does not function. In other words, The simple little mouse trap has no ability to trap a mouse until several separate parts are all assembled. Because the mouse trap is necessarily composed of several parts, it is irreducibly complex. Thus, irreducibly complex systems exist. In his book, Behe gives a few examples, but the one that I like is the flagellum tail of a tiny bacteria. Behe has studied those for 20 years. The tail allows it to swim around. The tail works a lot like a machine, an outboard motor on a boat. Behe says there are 40 different proteins that are needed for the flagellum, and they have to be assembled in the correct order and sequence. One mistake or one missing piece and it won't work. Watch an animation of the process on YouTube. This could never develop slowly, piece by piece. All pieces must be present at the beginning and assembled in the correct order. The big problem for evolution is that it relies on small incremental and accidental steps, and each one has to make the organism better off, or it doesn't survive by natural selection. It has to be better adapted than its ancestor. If a tail begins to develop slowly, the early bacterium is going to have a useless tail. That's not going to be advantageous. It's going to be worse. Evolutionists faithfully believe that this process happens over and over again, thousands of times. Let's take a larger scale example. Evolutionists believe that dinosaurs evolved into birds. How did that supposedly happen? Imagine you are a dinosaur on 4 legs and you have a baby that has 2 legs that start to look slightly like wings. Then this baby grows up and has a descendant a few generations later. In this new dinosaur, the same 2 legs look slightly more like wings. The process repeats itself many, many times. Each time the offspring is somehow more fit to survive. At some point in the middle of the evolution, the dinosaur must have 2 half-leg, half-wings. How well are they going to work? Obviously, it has to be the 2 front legs, and only the 2 front legs that change. Back legs changing doesn't work. Two legs changing only on the left side or right side doesn't work. Only one leg changing doesn't work. All this seems preposterous to me, but letting our imaginations go on a little more, we eventually get to the midway point. At the halfway point, you've got limbs that are almost worthless as legs and totally worthless as wings. You're just dead meat. Naturally, the true believers in evolution maintain their faith by using their imaginations to get around the irreducible complexity argument. Check out some of their rebuttals if you want, and then follow up with the responses by Behe and others. Typically, the evolutionists have no physical or fossil evidence for their imagined processes. Let me read that again. Typically, the evolutionists have no physical or fossil evidence for their imagined processes. So how can you debate their faith? Secondly, their imagined processes always violate one important rule of Darwinism, namely that no directed intelligence is ever allowed at any stage of development because there cannot be God to them. In the end, scientific truth will lead to proof that there must be God. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Yeah. Okay. So our next reading is chapter 33, and it involves cavemen. Okay. Have a nice day tomorrow. Have a nice Sunday. Have a nice night. Bye.